All right, everybody, this is Sheets, and I'm going to be going over how to use these sheets that are up on the site here. More to the point, I mean, how I use them and how I recommend using them. Because, this is just data, right? And data people can use in any way that they want. In other words, if you can figure out a better way, I'm sure there is, if you could figure out a way to use this stuff to your advantage, then just go for it. Don't just use it the way I'm telling you to. Um, and you know, and likewise, this is a supplement to other stuff you might be doing. This is not a full, complete lineup build, right? It's just data and information which you need to be able to interpret. So I'm doing this for baseball today, and what I'm doing is I'm doing it for literally today's slate. And I'm not going to be able to put it up today because then, DraftKings might get mad at building lineups. But if I put it out, say, tomorrow, then it's fine because the lineups will have already been made. So what you're looking at is the view that you're going to get pretty much, right, from the site. This is actually the Sheets version. You can just download it and make it look like this, or you can look at it from the site as well. And what this does is it ranks all the players, and I rank them when I do my first look by Sheets value score. But you could do it any way you want. You could do it by player name, team, position, salary, projection, point per dollar ranking, or average ownership, or just put ownership. It's just easier to say average because average is not exactly accurate. So I guess it must be worth explaining what all this is. So projection is essentially my interpretation of the entire industry's projection plus my little tweaks on it. And what that really does is I don't do any drill downs of a projection, right? I don't calculate the different statistics, things like that. Really what I'm doing is I'm taking different sources throughout the industry that does that work for me. And then what I do is I'm overlaying a kind of an accuracy adjuster. I did a lot of work trying to gauge which sources are best at certain situations. And I developed a little algorithm formula, whatever, to adjust my projections for that. So as a result, I would put these median projections or mean projections up there against everybody, really, because it combines all the information. The other thing to remember is that, again, a projection is just a median projection, and for baseball, it is, it's much less about projection than it is correlation and upside, because the way results distribute in baseball is very wild as opposed to, say, basketball. But that's another discussion. And points per dollar is just points per dollar. And Sheets value scores, again, it's kind of I don't like to use proprietary in a kind of a heavy-handed way, but it's a thing that I developed, which I think accurately, or at least close, represents the good combination of raw points and point per dollar. So Sheets value score I like a lot. And average ownership, again, ownership is the same as I do with projection. I just kind of get ownership projections from all over the place. And then the sources that are most accurate, I overweight those, and I come up with this kind of ownership. I think average might be, you might not see the word average much. I might get rid of that. But in any case, now again, this is, I'll put this up against anybody, but again, it's just a projection. It's not actually what's necessarily going to happen. So that's where all the data is. Now let's figure out the best way to use it. Now, first of all, just remember that a lot of it depends on what type of tournament you're in and what type of thing you're trying to accomplish, like cash games versus GPPs, small entry GPPs versus large, and all that stuff. And again, ownership is going to come into play when you're playing GPPs, more when you're playing GPPs. Now, first thing I will tell you is, if you really want to cheat, what you'll do is you'll just you'll upload these projections and ownerships to like an optimizer, like I like SaberSim, right? And just let them build the lineups for you. I mean, that's I mean, I do that quite a bit actually. So if you don't want to learn anything else, you can just do that if you want. But the way I like to deal with this is when it comes to like hand building hand building lineups, how to interpret all this. The other thing I want to go into with respect to baseball in particular are these stack ratings. And we're going to get back to that because you'll see that I rate stacks by several different metrics, either by raw stack rankings, value stack rankings, or modified stack rankings. And when to use each is a matter of art. Let's put it that way. And you'll see also that the players that I recommend in, for example, raw stacks might not necessarily be the same ones as value stacks or even modified stacks. And that is something to consider. So what the first thing I like to do is, is rank these guys by value stacks. And one thing you'll value score, and you'll notice when you do this enough that usually the pitchers have the highest value scores, and that's just the way it is. So it's only an accident. It's not an accident. It's just, I was wondering, you might wonder why the pitchers are rated first here if you're ranking them by certain ways. That's just because pitchers are usually ranked the highest. So if you wanted to start with pitching, you can just re-rank this by pitchers. So you only see the pitchers, but for the purpose of this, if you're not in the top bunch, you're not playing them anyway. So what I like to do is let's start with the top two by Sheets value score. And the thing is that when you have a whole bunch so close, that is certainly something to consider. Like sometimes you'll see, when you have a really elite pitcher or a really elite value, you'll have them like 10 or 15 points higher than the next guy. When you have a situation like that, you probably want to lock him in, or if he's going to be really chalky, play fewer lineups, right? Because then you could just really just like, single entries, 3 max, and you're just kind of over diversifying if you don't use them. So in a situation like today, though, for example, everybody is close. So what I do is I look at the pitchers and I say, okay, I have all these guys somewhat close. Where can I make the distinction based on, say, ownership for the purpose of GPPs? Now, if this were for cash games, I really would probably just take the top two. Like you take Glasnow and Lynn, shove them in your lineups, and then worry about the hitting in a minute, okay? But with respect to GPPs, because these guys are so close, I'm pretty sure that you probably want to try to do something like play Marco Gonzalez or play Kenta Maeda, okay? Or even, if you look down here, a value score of 32 is not even much less than a 37, or even Keller at 30. You could play these guys. Now, I will tell you that normally you don't get this type of bunching, and the pitchers are a little more clear cut. But on today's slate, when it's all so close, I think you can be really different in GPPs by playing these guys. One thing you can kind of distinguish from here is you'll see Alex Wood at 18% and rated all the way down here. Like for me, that's a 0, right? I would never play him. So that's the way I kind of would use this to kind of build my pitcher. So again, if you're playing cash, I would just put in Glasnow and Lynn. And if you're playing GPPs, I would really, include these guys in your player pool, like all these, like Gonzalez, Peterson, Keller, and you could play those, even if you hand build. So that's that. When it comes to the individual position players, you'll see a standout right here. You see Phillip Evans is kind of a standout. But I do like to rank these by position. Now you'll notice, by the way, that the rankings are not exactly the way you're used to. Like most plays have catcher first, but because it's alphabetically put in, the 1 comes first. So you could just rank them by position here. And if you wanted to play cash games, you could just take the top sheets value score or whatever from each position and just plug them in. And and see if you have any money left on the table. Then you probably want to then go just a straight projection to fill out that salary. Okay? Or again, if you want to cheat, just plug these projections and into an optimizer and just let it roll, and you probably get a decent cash game lineup out of that. So may as well, as we're doing this, let's look at FanDuel for today. At FanDuel, what you'll see is that when you'll get access to a decent amount of kind of cheaper FanDuel options. And normally you don't need to or want to play cheaper options on FanDuel. But if you do have situations where the hitting is really necessary and you can't afford them otherwise, you will want to play these kind of lower tier, these lower, salaried, high value score pitchers. But for now on this slate, again, depending on where the hitting goes, it's going to be probably either Glasnow or, well, I mean, Pierce is actually going to be, it's not going to be less than 1%. This is an early run. I mean, you'll get a late run where it's going to be obviously more than 1%. But if you get that, great. And I'll tell you this, like given these ownerships, I probably would play Wainwright at 8K. If in fact you could benefit by getting those good hitters. So let's take a look at that. Let's go back to DraftKings and we'll rank these guys by stack. So depending on, and here's the key. Let's rank them first by raw stack. Okay. So if we rank them by raw stack, the Padres are going to be clearly the best option. Why is that? Let me pause for a second. Let me pull up the DraftKings lobby. Yeah, I was guessing they probably play in Coors, which they do. Okay, so that's why they're going to be rated as top raw stacks kind of by a lot. But you want to have some fun? Let's do this. Let's put this in because we're not going to whatever. Let's put in Glasnow, for example, and Lynn. Okay, so if you put in Glasnow and Lynn, for example, you're just not going to be able to play the Padres, right? So what you have to do then in a situation like that, that is when you then probably want to go. And again, we're talking about GPPs because in the cash, you probably don't need to stack, right? So then you probably want to go to value stack, and value stack would actually give you Pittsburgh as the top stack if you were going to pay up for pitching, right? Now, let's say that you wanted to rate by modified stack. So modified stack, you'd want Pittsburgh also. So if you're going to double pay for pitching, this would be the stack that I'd probably put in there. So just for fun, you want to put that in? So it's going to be Evans, Reynolds, Gonzalez, Newman, Hayes. So let's do that. Let's put that in. Where are they? Pittsburgh. Okay. Hayes. Was it Reynolds? I forgot. I forgot already. I'm already getting old. Evans, Reynolds, Gonzalez, Newman. So Evans. Let's put an outfield for now. First baseman. Evans, Reynolds, Hayes, Gonzalez, and put him here. Gonzalez put at first base. And where's Newman? Newman could be up here, and then who did we say? Evans. So if you want, you could do a really, really cheap Pittsburgh stack, a full 5-man, and then you could just pay up for these other positions, and you could get really, really just high upside one-offs if you did that. So, like for example, you want to take this to the extreme. Let's do that. Let's go. Let's see if there's a high price, high projected catcher, second baseman, and outfielder that we can use to fill this out. Now here, you probably want to just rank by projection, right? So outfield, you can get access to that Padres situation by doing this. Like you could play Tommy Pham at 5K, for example. We're ranking them by projection, so he's got the top projection. And then, I mean, what do we got at second base? Second base, you could play, for example, you could play Cronenworth, where otherwise you wouldn't be able to afford him, right? And then, or you could play Merrifield, or you could play Simeon. Like all these guys are really, just the top projected plays. Or you could play Salvador Perez at 5,200. Or you could play Real Muto. Do you want to fill in a lineup just for funsies? Let's put in Salvador Perez because he always does it. So we have 2 spots for a second baseman and an outfielder. Now we couldn't do exactly what we wanted, right? Because those guys were a little too expensive. But let's Let's rate it by value score. And what I like to do sometimes is rate it by value score and then see the highest, raw points guy in the value score rankings. Like, I'll give you an example. Like here, Cronenworth is probably kind of an elite play here because he ranks really high. Well, he's a 15, but again, now you have to watch multiple position of eligibility. So these guys are actually the best. So let's see. We don't have Frazier, huh? We could play Simeon. Simeon would probably be a really strong play. So let's put in Simeon or Semyon. Second. And then let's see who's one more outfielder that we could get at 4,800. I'm sure we'll be able to find somebody. Will Myers. We'll leave 400 on the table. So we'll put in Will Myers, and that's the way we'll get our exposure to that. Colorado game, and then we got a lineup, right? And this is a pretty good low owned. Honestly, it's high owned from the top, but it's low owned in the hitting, and we used our sheets to get there. Okay. So that's if you wanted to pay up for pitching. Now let's say that you want to do something different. Like let's say that you want to leave yourself a little more room for hitting. Let's say you wanted to play something like Gonzalez, just for example. You want to play Gonzalez, you want to play Maeda, want to go really low owned and play Peterson. Let's do that. Let's go really low owned and play Peterson. So we'll go, let's give you the full example. Let's go Peterson and Maeda, for example. And that's going to be really, really low owned and really cheap. So Maeda, well, you want to do it even further? You want to do Gonzalez and Keller? Yeah, let's do Gonzalez and Keller. Just for funsies. Oops. Sorry about that. I gotta change this. So let's say we put in Gonzalez and Keller. Okay. It'd be Brad Keller. Sorry about that. Oops. Now you got 4,700. So if you got 4,700 per player, now you might be able to rank these by raw stack and get something. So now you might be able to get to, say, the Padres. Now the thing is, though, is that they're going to be so highly owned. See that? That what I'm probably inclined to do is take like the next best one that's going to be less owned. And here it's the Dodgers. Now, again, I don't think this ownership is particularly accurate. It's an early one, but just to show you how I'm using this stuff, what I'll probably do is I'll look at this and say, okay, Padres are obviously the best, but the Dodgers are the next best with much lower ownership. So let's put those in. Betts, Bellinger, Turner, Taylor, Smith. Let's do that. You got to remember. Betts, Bellinger, Turner, Smith. Betts, Bellinger. Gotta get it over here. Dodgers. Okay. Betts, Turner, Bellinger. What's happened to him? Is he hurt again? Yeah, I'd expect him. Bellinger, Taylor, and Smith was it? Is that what it is? Let's go back to it. Will Smith. Right. So now you can get all these 5 guys in, and now what you have to do is you have to just kind of pay down just a little bit for hitting. You want to build this one? If this wins, we're going to be freaking heroes and geniuses. Before I do this, do a little quality control. Let's see if Gonzalez actually gets any innings. 4, well, every once in a while. Threw 7 innings against the Dodgers. They'll give him 100 pitches if he's doing well. I'm going to try this. All right. So then let's just look. So we have a first baseman, a shortstop, and an outfielder. So we'll go back to the projections. And we could do one off with Phillip Evans now. Right? He does rate to be one of the best plays. But let's just do somebody different. So Bobby Dahlbeck. Bobby Dahlbeck. So if we play Dahlbeck, we might not even need to. Like if we play Bobby Dahlbeck, for example, We might even be able to play Tatis, which obviously would be kind of neat, right, to get from that game. But let's see who else is good at shortstop. Well, there's Newman, obviously. Trevor Story. All right, that's an interesting one. I didn't think of that one. So Trevor Story, put him in. He's in that game. He's against Lamet. Lamet's been doing pretty well, but you know what? Whatever. Let's put in Story. And then in the well, we probably don't need to do that because in the outfield we don't really like anybody that great. But we did like Pham. So why don't we go back and put Pham in the outfield? Again, we're getting a little bit of exposure from that game. Pham against the lefties, obviously pretty good. And then, can we quite get up to Tatis? No, but we can get to somebody like Bichette. So we can put him in. All right, so that's like a real cheapo pitching one. And what we did, again, when you rate it by pitching, when you have low price pitching, then you can rank your stacks by raw points. All right, let's do, if you're still here, all right, let's do FanDuel as well, because what you'll find is that FanDuel, you could probably get in more guys on a raw stack basis than from than necessarily having to go down and rate by value stacks. Like even, for example, we're probably going to play Wainwright, but let's just say we played Glass now. Let me pause and get a FanDuel one up there. All right, sorry. So let's just see. So if you use Glass now, right, he's pretty expensive. Now you're at 3,000 a player. So let's go into the FanDuel stacks and see what we did. So let's just say we ranked it by raw. It would be nice to be able to get the Padres, but it's going to be hard. So let's put them in and see what they're priced at. Tatis, Machado, Pham, Myers. Let's put all of them in. Sorry about that. Where's San Diego? Tatis, Machado, Pham. Who's the other one? Myers. So if we did this, I mean, we'd really have to be able to find some good stuff at first base, catcher, you know what I mean? But it's possible, right? Like we ranked it by raw and we're able to get to the Padres. And I wonder if we then ranked the next guys by, say, value. We're back to these Pittsburghs. I wonder just how cheap these Pittsburgh guys really are. Evans, Stallings, Frazier, Gonzalez. Let's see. Maybe we can get these in. All right. So first of all, let's go pull up Pittsburgh. And let's just see what we got. So Stallings, ooh, only 2,100 over here. Frazier, was it Frazier or Newman? Which one did we like? Let's see. It was actually Frazier with value. We're going to get this easy, I think. So Frazier. Oh, it's 2,400. Okay. So now we need an outfielder and utility. Who are those last two that we were recommending here? So Evans and Gonzalez, or we could even maybe be able to get to Brian Hayes. Let's just see. Let's just see. Reynolds 2,800 is not going to work. Okay, so Frazier, we could have played at second. So if you want, I mean, so we put Newman here, and then we could put Evans. Who is it that we said that we could put it in the outfield? So I really want to get to Brian Hayes if we can. Put Frazier here, and then if we can get Brian Hayes as the last one, we're freaking heroes. Not quite. Okay. But this is really, really close. Now, I would venture to say actually close enough where we could then put in like Polanco, for example. That would be good. And here you can get a 4x4 with Washington, with Glass now and San Diego. And you did a mixture between the raw stacks and the value stacks. So it really does depend on what pitching you kind of want to use. Now, a little bit of quality control. Let me just make sure there's no awesome 2600. Because when I look at this, I see that Polanco was not really one of the Pittsburgh guys that I was recommending. So if there's a really good $2,600 player anywhere, like Garcia, like for example, like Garcia rates like much higher. So I would probably swap out, say, Polanco for Garcia, because he rates is that much higher than Polanco. And then just to make sure, if there's an awesome Milwaukee guy that's better than these Pittsburgh, I can go 4x2x2 and make that work. So let's just take a look at this at the guys. Let's look at we could cheat. We can go to the stacks and go to the Milwaukees. So Garcia, Adames, Narvaez. So either Bradley, Adames, Narvaez. Let's look. Let's see. Bradley, Adames, Narvaez. So Bradley would be 2,000. Him we could play easily. Adames we could play too. But Adames is shortstop. We don't want to play him there. But what we could do is replace one of these like lower order guys. Like who's second base? So Newman was second base. But we don't want to replace him. So it was Adames. Sorry to struggle with this, but it was Adames, Narvaez, or I'm sorry to keep going back and forth. Or Bradley. So I could put Bradley instead of Frazier if I wanted, but I think I'm content with this. Let's leave Garcia as the one-off. And we do that. So I think that's a pretty decent semi-tutorial about how to use this stuff, right? Does that make sense? Want to build one more with Wainwright just to see? Yeah, why not? We have one more Wainwright just to see. If you're still here, that's great. Oh, that's baseball. Sorry about that. Okay. So if we built one with Wainwright, and again, we don't worry about ownership in that other one because we had the Pittsburgh guys. If we build one with Wainwright, then you could do a lot. So let's take a look and see if we can, just based on raw, what we would do. So again, same deal. You know, you have the Colorado so highly owned. Here, let's see if we can build one with Colorado. Maybe Colorado and the Dodgers, for example. Let's see if we can build it with that. So let's go Story, Blackman, McMahon, Crone. Story, Blackman, McMahon, Crone. Story, Blackman, McMahon, Crone. Story, Blackman, McMahon, Crone. Oh, at least you remembered it. So we still have 3,400 a man left. Like, so if we wanted to game stack, we could play San Diego guys, or we could go into this realm and play these third base guys. I mean, these Dodgers, if you want. You think we can get who we wanted for 3,400? Probably not. Let's take a look. Yeah, we're not going to be able to get those, but maybe, just maybe, we get a combination of maybe Washington's or Toronto's. See, it's hard to get the actual raw stack. So why don't we do it by modified and see if we can't get a better recommendation. So back to the Padres. They're giving us Milwaukee again. So let's get the Milwaukees in. Garcia, Adames, Narvaez, Yelich. Garcia, Dames, Narvaez, Dames, Narvaez. Let's just see how many of those fit in what we want to do here. Milwaukee. Well, first we're putting Yelich, 39. That's okay. And then we'll go Garcia. And then we could put a Dames in here. And we can play as much as we want. We can play 5,000 up here. So we don't even need to do that. But we have a Dames, Garcia, Yelich. And we could go play Machado if we want up here, right? If we want, leave money on the table, or we could play Guerrero. So maybe we can play some of these Dodgers. So let's put Turner in here. We have 1K for free. Let's see what these Dodgers are costing us here. Let's take a look at Dodgers outfielders. Bellinger, not quite. Can't quite get there. Who else in the Dodgers? Let's go back and look and see who they rate here. So now we could do maybe a Yelich, Garcia, Vogelback, a Dames. Let's go back to the Dodgers. Go Pollock. Let's see what Pollock costs. Maybe Pollock to replace the Dames even. So we have 1,000 left on the table in this build. So what I would do in this situation, again, is just I'm eyeballing this stuff, and I'll say, okay, I probably can get away with something better than a Dames, for example. Okay. So let's keep Turner as a one-off if that works. Let's just see. Let's see if he's a good third baseman. And let's see if he's a good third base rated. Actually, Machado would be better. So let's put him in instead. Ooh, am I going to be able to get to Tatis this way? Ooh, not quite. But I might be able to get to another Padre. So who's another Padre besides Tatis that they would want in kind of my mini stacks here? So it'd be Pham or Myers. Let's see. Let's see which of these guys can fit. Okay, so Pham is 3,300. Myers is 2,600. So either works. So we'll put in Myers. And leave a little bit on the table. That should be good. All right. Let's put that in. This is longer than I thought it was going to be, but I think it showed you kind of good practical applications of this. That's it. Hope you guys get something out of this, and there'll be improvements over the course of time, but I think you're off to a good start.